Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin continues to hold above this important Fibonacci level as major liquidity is building just above the price of Bitcoin on this chart right here. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about my exact Bitcoin trading strategy alongside Ethereum, which is now officially rejecting from this very important resistance, while the price of Solana is continuing to play out the short-term warning signal alongside XRP now retesting a critical level on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, taking a look at the 4-day Bitcoin price chart, and right now the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, like I've been saying recently here on the channel, we're getting very close to actually invalidating this massive bearish divergence. So not a lot has changed on this chart over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin chart, obviously right now we're still playing out this bullish crossover in the weekly Bitcoin MACD, showing more bullish momentum on the larger timeframes. And so obviously from time to time during these larger bullish movements, we can see some short-term cool-offs here and there, the occasional red candle once again, but overall on the larger moves here, we're currently looking more bullish than bearish. And that's especially the case while the price of Bitcoin is holding above this area on the price chart, sitting in between around 96,000 to 98,000, because that would likely act as significant support for the price of Bitcoin if we were to actually retest that area. I'm not saying we will, but if we get down there, expect a lot of support at 96 to 98,000 based on previous significant resistance flipping into new support. And as for the resistance to watch out for right now, we do have resistance here based on these candle closes at the highs, obviously, and that's sitting at approximately 106,000 acting as resistance. And so far, we have seen at least a short-term rejection from very close to 106,000, proving it as resistance. But once we can break out above 106,000, then we're basically very likely going to retest the all-time high at close to 109,000, give or take, and then maybe around there we could find a bit of short-term resistance, but ultimately it's extremely likely that quite soon in the next few days or weeks we'll head up towards all-time highs. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, right now in the shorter term, the price of Bitcoin is holding this Fibonacci level as support, and that's sitting at around 102,000. So obviously, at least in the immediate short term here, this is some good news for the price of Bitcoin. But if we were to see a confirmed break with candle closes confirming below around 102,000, and especially if we flip that into new resistance, in that situation, we could potentially see a pullback down towards this next significant area of support if, of course, we first confirm a break below 102,000, and the next significant area of support is once again in between around 96 to 98,000. And in the meantime, in the immediate short term here, talking about a period of days, maybe a week, that sort of time frame, we're currently experiencing a short-term cool-off, mostly in the form of a sideways consolidation, basically just cooling off after all of this previous bullish price action here. And obviously for over half a week now, for the last few days, this is exactly what I've been saying we should be expecting for the price of Bitcoin in the shorter term, for a few days, maybe a week, once again, in order to reset the RSI on the daily time frame out of these overbought territories. Because obviously a few days ago here, we were overbought on the daily RSI, telling us that we're running out of room towards the upside, at least in the shorter term, and we need some time to cool off, to reset, which can give us more room towards the upside later on with an eventual breakout. And so overall, when it comes to the larger trend that is playing out, the momentum, especially on the larger timeframes, once again, I'm currently bullish on the price of Bitcoin, as I've been saying basically every day for weeks now on the channel since much lower prices, which is why I've been sharing this long position for weeks now on the channel. But just in the immediate short term, expect a bit of a cool off before ultimately breaking out later on as the most likely scenario here. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we have a lot of liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin in the short term, sitting at around 106,500 to 107,000. So basically just below 107,000, we have a lot of liquidity right there, which means it is quite likely that very soon, maybe in a few days from now, maybe a week from now, that sort of time frame, it's quite likely that soon it will come back up to actually hit that liquidity. And now, of course, we also have a bit of liquidity building to the downside here at roughly around 92,000, give or take. So keep that in mind. But of course, it's worth mentioning that we have to pay attention to all of these Bitcoin charts and not just rely on one chart. So for example, even though we have that liquidity at 92,000, we have to remember we have support at 102,000 and also significant support in between 96 to 98,000. And so these major levels of support here do have the potential to prevent the price from actually going all the way down towards 92,000 and taking out that liquidity. And so overall, based on all of this information, I expect a little bit more of a cool off in the shorter term, but ultimately the larger trend I'm still bullish on for the price of Bitcoin. So with that being said, taking a look at my trading strategy over the last one day, it has not changed. So I'm still in this Bitcoin long position, as you can see, and as I've been sharing basically every day for weeks now on the channel since much lower prices here. And the last change that I made to this long position was around half a week ago, a few days ago now, and it was right around here at give or take 104,000, 105,000 around there. I took a small amount of profits out of the long position, just slightly reducing the size of the trade because it was right around here. I said it's extremely likely that in the next few days, for maybe a week, we're going to see a bit of a cool off, and obviously so far that's exactly playing out as predicted. And so ultimately not a lot has changed over the last one day, at least for Bitcoin. But of course, if you want to take these trades for yourself to make a lot of easy profits in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto like what I'm doing right here, of course you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on 2bit, so I'll make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link to 2bit, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example up to $50,000 you can actually claim onto your 2bit account just by trading crypto using the link below this video. But if you're not one of these larger traders here, you can also claim a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only if you use that link. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want 2bit as an exchange, there's also BTNex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading bonuses. Like for example, up to $35,000 you can actually claim onto your BTNex account using the link below this video. But if you're not one of these larger traders, you can also get some decent deposit bonuses. Like for example, that same 20% deposit rebate. Essentially, if you deposit $1,000, you get a $200 bonus, but only using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, the first and second link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNex is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the weekly time frame, and over the last one day, honestly, not a lot has changed for Ethereum, at least on the weekly chart. So we're still starting to form this bullish price structure, and ever since we broke out above this level right here at around 2.3k, of course that was a significant reclaim of a significant level on the price chart. But if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, we are currently experiencing a short-term rejection from this golden pocket area of resistance sitting in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. So as I've been saying for a while now on the channel, expect the price to struggle in that area. And obviously, if we're looking at where the price started to struggle and reject from, it is precisely the area that I've been predicting here on the channel. So once again, expect a lot of resistance in this area. And with that being said, as for support, we do have a lot of support at roughly around 2.4k. So if we continue this pullback here, expect support at around 2400. And as for other levels of support and resistance, we also have significant support down here at around 2.1k based on previous resistance flipping into new support. And if we can finally break out above 2.8k with confirmation, in that situation, the next price target, the next major point of resistance is sitting in between around 3.2k to 3.3k. And obviously, one of the reasons as to why we're seeing a slight pullback in the short term for Ethereum, alongside the fact that we're rejecting from this resistance, is also due to the fact that here on the 2-hour Ethereum price chart, we now have this bearish divergence, which is already playing out, as I said in my last video just yesterday. So like I said yesterday, right around here, we're most likely going to see just a short-term pullback or maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action, but honestly, most likely just a slight pullback, a bit of a cool off in the short term from all of the bullish price action. And obviously over the last one day, that's continued to play out exactly as predicted. And And now typically a bearish divergence on the 2-hour time frame only plays out over a few days or so. So maybe this plays out for another one day, but don't necessarily expect this to play out over weeks and weeks. Once again, it's just a short-term signal here. And so the most likely scenario for Ethereum is we continue a little bit more of a short-term cool-off, kind of like this in the coming hours, maybe the next 1 or 2 days, that sort of time frame, just the immediate short-term cooling off, which is helping to reset the RSI, giving us more room towards the upside for potentially a breakout that could happen later on, considering the larger trend and momentum here on the daily time frame is of course pointing in the bullish direction. And as always, expect similar price action for Ethereum as to what Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin continues this little cool off in the short term and then maybe a breakout later on, we'll likely see something for Ethereum in the shorter term and a breakout later on as well. And with that being said, taking a look at Solana on the 3-day time frame, despite seeing short-term cool-offs here and there, on the 3-day chart, of course, we are playing out a bullish divergence, a massive bullish divergence. So ultimately continue to expect this bullish relief to continue to play out here, which is essentially a bullish trend visible here on the daily Solana price chart, forming higher lows and higher highs, and of course breaking out above key points on the price chart. And for now, we're currently retesting one of those key points, and that's sitting at approximately 167 to 168. And so far up until now, it has been acting as support. And so ideally for the bulls out there, we need to actually hold above this level in order to remain bullish, at least in the shorter term. Now, if we actually break this level with a daily candle close below around 167, give or take, in the immediate short term for the following days, that will likely be a bearish signal, but not necessarily confirming the end of this bullish trend. Because for example, it's possible we just see a slight little pullback in the shorter term during the larger bullish trend here, just like how during this previous bearish trend, of course, we can see decent pumps, decent bounces here and there along the way down. But basically, we're seeing the exact opposite. And so expect some short-term support at around 167 to 168. But if we actually break below that level with confirmation, in that situation, the next support I'll be watching is sitting at around 154 to 156. And below that, we have some major support at around 145 to 146. And as for resistance to watch out for, obviously in the immediate short term, we have just discovered new resistance at around 184. But ultimately, the next significant area of resistance to watch out for is, of course, this golden pocket area of resistance. And that's still sitting in between around 191 to 200. And once we can finally break out above 200 with confirmation, in that situation, the next price target would be sitting at roughly 230. And of course, one of the main reasons as to why we're seeing a slight pullback in the short term for Solana, just cooling off after the bullish price action, is due to the fact that we are actively playing out a bearish divergence on the 4-hour Solana price chart, with higher highs confirmed in the price in the candle closes and lower highs confirmed in the 4-hour Solana RSI, telling us we're most likely going to see a slight pullback in the short term, or maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action. So essentially no significant bullish momentum for the next few days or so. And considering the fact this is on the 4-hour time frame, it usually plays out over at least a few days, maybe up to a week, maybe a little longer, like a week and a half, that sort of time frame. So continue to expect this to play out here in the short term for the coming days as the most likely scenario here. But once again, we're still within a bullish trend on the daily time frame. So what that could look like is a little bit more of a pullback, maybe a bit of a sideways consolidation, something like this, for example, kind of like what we saw right here, but during the bullish trend. So for example, we can see a short-term cool-off like this, and then ultimately a continuation of the trend later on. That is a very likely scenario. And remember to definitely pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing, because if Bitcoin continues that cool-off, that will likely affect a lot of the altcoin market cooling off in the short term. And then once again, if Bitcoin breaks out, continues the bullish trend, that can really help a lot of the altcoin market as well. And if we're taking a look at XRP on the daily time frame, as I record in this video, the price of XRP is currently retesting this previous important line of resistance, which we recently broke out above and is potentially acting as new support right now. But obviously we're still in the retest phase of this breakout right here. And right now this line of support is sitting at around $2.43 to $2.44 approximately. So ideally we need to actually hold that as support in order to maintain this this breakout here. Because for example, if we start confirming daily candle closes well below that level on the price chart, breaking back below that level, in that situation, that would invalidate this breakout and basically just turn it into a fake out, meaning the breakout is invalid and we could see a little bit further of a pullback, potentially down towards some of these other levels of support. And in that situation, if we actually confirm a break back to the downside, I'll be focusing on around $2.30 and around $2.10 as the next significant levels of support to watch out for. But obviously for now, the price is still holding this level at roughly around 243 to 244. We've not yet confirmed a daily candle close back below that level. And so of course the bullish scenario here is if we simply just hold this as support right now and ideally actually bounce from this level in the coming days. That'll be very good to see for the price of XRP, because if we do that, if we flip previous resistance into new support, of course that is bullish price structure and that would further confirm the breakout and of course this bullish trend. And so at least in the short to mid-term, this is a bit of a make or break moment for the price of XRP. But if we're zooming further into the short term, taking a look at just the 3-hour XRP price chart, obviously for now, one of the main reasons as to why we're seeing a bit of a pullback, a cool off in the short term, is thanks to this short term bearish divergence, which is actively playing out. And so as I've already been saying throughout this video, and of course in my last video here on the channel, I talked about this exact warning signal, and right now it is still playing out. So continue to expect a short term pullback or maybe a bit of choppy sideways price action like this as the most likely outcomes from a bearish divergence. So expect something like this moving forward, at least over the next couple of days or so. And of course, over the last one day, this has been playing out exactly as I've been predicting. And so ultimately, not a lot has changed for the price of XRP over the last one day. So getting straight into the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame. And right now, like I've been saying throughout this video, Chainlink is also experiencing a short-term cool-off, mainly thanks to the fact that we are rejecting from this significant level of resistance, and that's sitting at around 1750 to 1760. And obviously, this is exactly what I've been talking about since before we even broke out above this golden pocket above around 1550. Of course, since these much lower prices here, I said once we break out above 1550, expect a quick move up towards 1750 to 1760, and then expect a rejection and a lot of resistance from that level. And obviously, this is still perfectly playing out as predicted. And as for support, I would now expect a lot of support based on this previous golden pocket here in between around 1490 to 1550. So if we continue this pullback, expect a lot of support in that area. But of course, seeing this pullback and short-term rejection from this line of resistance is helping to reset the RSI down towards more neutral levels out of overbought, which is technically giving us more room towards the upside to potentially continue the bullish trend later on. Because technically, if we're looking at the highs and the lows in the Chainlink price chart, at least on the daily time frame, we are currently forming higher lows and higher highs, which is of course a bullish trend. So yes, during a bullish trend, we can see short-term pullback, short-term cool-offs here and there, just like how during a bearish trend, we can see the occasional short-term bullish relief or bounce to the upside. And so ultimately, that is what I expect moving forward, a little bit more of a cool-off, most likely finding support in this golden pocket, and then most likely remaining within a bullish trend, especially if Bitcoin remains within this bullish trend. Once again, really just pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is most likely going to happen for a lot of these major altcoins. And remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market, then make sure to check out those links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto like what I'm doing right here, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.